So, over the weekend, something huge happened on the world stage. The kind of event that you'd expect to send global markets into a complete and utter tailspin. But then Monday morning rolls around, the world wakes up, looks at the numbers, and basically sees a whole lot of nothing. So, let's get into this, because it's a really strange disconnect.
Okay, so just look at this contrast. On one hand, you have this absolutely massive news, an explosive U.S. raid in Venezuela that ends with the capture of President Maduro. I mean, think about it. This move basically puts one of the planet's biggest oil reserves under American influence. And then on the other hand, you have the market's reaction. Benchmark oil prices, they barely budged, climbed less than 1%. It's like a geopolitical earthquake was met with a collective shrug.
So, that's the big question, right? What is everyone missing here? I mean, if the markets are this calm, does that mean this whole thing is really just a non-event? Or, and this is the interesting part, is there a much deeper, longer-term story that the day-to-day numbers just aren't picking up on? Well, one person is absolutely convinced there is more to the story, and that brings us to a name you might recognize, Michael Burry. Yep, the guy from The Big Short, the man who famously saw the 2008 housing crash coming when pretty much nobody else did. And true to form, he has a very, very different take on what just went down.
Burry did not mince words. He jumped right on social media, he wrote about it, and he said, quote, "This is a paradigm shift despite the markets yawning." So for him, this isn't just another headline that will fade away. He sees it as a fundamental change in how the entire game is played. His whole argument is that the market is being incredibly short-sighted. He's saying the game just changed for global energy, and that while all the traders are obsessing over today's prices, they're completely missing the massive ripple effects that are going to play out over the next few months and even years. So let's start digging into the first of those ripples. The first and most immediate effect, according to Burry's whole analysis, hits right here in the Americas. See, this isn't just about Venezuela. It's about a major rebalancing of power across the entire continent. So for Burry, the U.S. economy comes out as a huge winner here. First, he points to the immediate boost for oil services companies. Think about it. Venezuela's oil infrastructure is in rough shape and needs a total overhaul. American firms are going to be first in line for those contracts. But the bigger, more widespread win is the potential flood of Venezuelan oil into the market. This could mean cheaper gas at the pump for all of us and lower fuel costs for trucks and planes. That brings down costs across the entire supply chain. It's a real relief for families and a major boost for businesses. But you know how it goes. For every winner, there's usually a loser. And in this case, Burry points right at America's closest neighbors, Canada and Mexico. For years, they've been absolutely essential suppliers of crude oil to the U.S. But now, all of a sudden, U.S. refineries might have a brand new, potentially cheaper option. And he argues this could seriously weaken Canada and Mexico's bargaining power in any future trade talks. Okay, so that's the picture in the Americas. But Burry's thesis gets a lot bigger from here. He argues this whole move wasn't just about oil. It was a massive strategic power play on the global stage, one that put two of America's biggest rivals on notice. Let's start with China. The way Burry puts it, this whole operation was a direct shot across China's bow, a really clear, really powerful message sent without ever having to fire a single shot at them. And you can really see the strategic bind this puts China in. For years, China has poured billions into Venezuela as part of its massive Belt and Road Initiative. And the collateral for all those loans? Future oil output from Venezuela. Well, that collateral is now effectively in U.S. hands. Burry also points out this sends a pretty chilling two-sided message when it comes to Taiwan. On one hand, China sees a blueprint for how a swift takeover could work. But on the other hand, it gets a front-row seat to America's decisive power. The bottom line is, this single event suddenly makes things a lot riskier for major Chinese companies. Now let's talk about the other superpower. When it comes to the impact on Russia, Burry paints this incredible picture, saying, quote, "Putin's jaw has to be on the floor." And the contrast here is just stark. Burry points out that the U.S. got this done in Venezuela in practically seconds. Meanwhile, Russia has been bogged down in Ukraine for 3 years. But even more importantly, this move strikes right at the heart of Russia's power in the world, its control over energy. By bringing a huge new supply of oil online, the U.S. can diminish the global importance of Russian oil, and that translates directly to less income and less influence for Russia on the world stage. It's a massive blow. So let's pull all these different threads together. What's the big picture here? What's the core idea that Michael Burry is screaming from the rooftops that he thinks the markets are totally missing? When you boil it all down, Burry's analysis gives us one clear winner, the United States, which gets a huge boost to its energy security and its economy. And then you have the clear losers. China, which suddenly sees billions in strategic loans at risk. Russia, whose main source of power in the world just got seriously weakened. And even America's neighbors, Canada and Mexico, who now find themselves with less leverage. So, to bring it all home, this is the crucial point. For Michael Burry, this is not just some minor regional event. It's not a temporary blip in oil prices. This is a fundamental tectonic shift. It's a complete reset of the entire global energy and power map with consequences that are going to be unfolding for years and years to come. And that just leaves us with the one giant question hanging in the air. The market saw the news and just yawned. Michael Burry, a guy who has been famously right when everyone else was famously wrong, sees a massive paradigm shift. So, who's right? That's the billion-dollar question we're all left to think about.